Hey there, I get a lot of questions about how I handle nationals slot distribution for the North Carolina section. And I have a template that I use that I built to solve this problem a couple of years ago. And I just wanted to share it with you. One, so you know how to find activity points for USPSA for the clubs in your section, but also how you can just use this very easy template to do the work for you. So I will share a link to this template, but when you get it, you will not be able to edit anything. It's just the way the template works. It's to preserve all the formulas in here. So what we're going to do is you are going to go to the top and you're just going to hit make a copy, and then you can make a copy to save in your own Google Drive, and then we can get to work. So basically, once you have this template, we're going to start by going to the key tab. So this is where I put everything in. So when you get this template, it's going to be populated. I've already gone ahead and put in the 2024 match information since that's the year I'm recording this. But basically, anything in the spreadsheet that is yellow is a field that is editable. So each year we just got Optic slots. So you're going to go in and you're going to put in all the nationals for that year. So we have 3 nationals in 2024. I've put in their name, their date. I can even list it if I wanted to, like a Optics. We can do that. Here are all the divisions. And I've added in limited optics that will be valid. They're going to start counting activity for that in 2024, I believe. But up to, in case they add more divisions like they've been doing, I've added in 2 extra slots here for that. In North Carolina, we issue slots to whoever is our state champion in a specific division. So if you've won Optics, then you are Optics champ. And you will be entitled to a slot. Now we give out those champion slots. That's just our policy. Other states do it differently, but in North Carolina we do that, and we issue those slots first, and then the remaining slots that we have get distributed between the match directors, the clubs in our section based on their activity points. But I go in, I put in all the information for all of my champions if they exist. Sometimes we don't have a recognized revolver champion or an L10 champion, but I will put in all their information. I'm going to put their name, the first name, last name, and the email address. I'm also going to put in all my clubs for my section, and their, again, first name, last name, and email address. And this is going to populate somewhere later, which I will show you. We also have how we allocate slots. We have champion slots that we allocate. We have club slots that we allocate. And I have a miscellaneous one here because we give our match directors a certain date to use the slots by. And if they don't use the slot by that date, we go ahead and pull those slots back and we redistribute them in a lottery. So we have it listed here. And then we have a status, whether the slot is used, not used. We emailed the person to let them know about the slot, if it's available, or if we've redistributed it. So that's our key. All these fields are editable, but all these fields tie into the spreadsheet elsewhere. So I go in at the beginning of every year and just make sure I've updated the match. If any divisions need to be added or any champions need to be changed out for the previous year's match, I can go in and do that. All right, so the next thing I do is I gather points. So here in my points tab, I have a spreadsheet basically where I will list all my clubs. I put the previous year start date, end date, and whether they're active. So we have a lot of clubs in North Carolina, for example. They're in North Carolina, but they're not technically what we would consider in our section. So as a section, we have our bylaws. You have to be inducted into our section. You have to agree to our North Carolina specific bylaws. You have to pay an annual due. So there's another level there. So I have this toggle in here for whether they're active or not. And basically this just pushes into my tally to say, should I consider them as part of the count or not? But then we'll have our club name, our club code, and we have all those same divisions here again. And then we have points. So basically, the way you gather activity points for a club is you're going to go to uspsa.org/club-activity. So if I click on this, it's going to open up this search. So you can search by an individual club. You have to know the club code. So for example, North Carolina section has a club of its own, and it's NCO2. So I could pull the report that way and see my activity. And it will show me all my activity. And again, we only host an annual match. So we have 1 match per year here, as you can see. But what I do for my section specifically is I go and I find my section in the list here. So I'm North Carolina. And I change the dates. So I change the start date back to, January. And the end date is December 31st. And this will pull all of my activity for the entire section. And so it breaks it down by any of the clubs that are active, meaning they've paid dues to USPSA. And it will show here the division, their club code, and their club name, and their point value. So basically, I just have two tabs open side by side, and I will go through. So I would have all the information populated for my club name. So for example, Asheville is the club name, and their club code is NCO1. And I would basically just take this and put that in the slot for this entire first section with all these divisions. Then I go through with the tab open in another window, and I just pull in this number right here. So this is the summary of all their activity points for open for the entire year. So for open, they had 71, and then I go down the list. For limited, they had 114. And I go down and all the way through. And sometimes there are clubs that don't have activity for maybe less popular divisions like limited 10 or production. So when they don't have any information, like for example, 2023, no clubs have activity points for limited optics because they weren't counting activity points since it was provisional. So I would put a 0 in there. Activity points are only issued in like the quarter values. So it could be 101.25, 100.50, 375.75, just to list a few. Whoops. So that's how points are done. So I just go through and I have one tab open and two windows open, and I go side by side, and I kind of just manually go through and populate what the point values are. And once I have the template set up for myself, all my clubs and their codes are already set up in there. But when you're using this template for the first time, you're gonna have to go through and put in those club names and club codes for each of the 9 division lines here, and you'll put in all your point values. So I'm just gonna put in some miscellaneous point values here so we can use them in our spreadsheet. I've already changed my spreadsheet too to be, for the sake of this, I had already changed it to recognize this club name 1 and club name 2. So I will just leave it, or code 2. So I will just, leave it as that. We'll just put in some placeholder points. I will do the same thing. I'm just going to populate, for the sake of this, some more point values. Just so we have more than one to compare to. So I'm going to go through, do that for all my clubs. If I have clubs, I've populated 10 clubs in here. If you have fewer than 10 clubs, you can absolutely just, you go through and you wipe those lines and delete the values out of there. This 2023 line, it's going to populate based on what the year is in this start column as well. So you don't have to worry about that. It's not yellow. You don't have to edit any column that isn't yellow. So once I've gone through and I've put in my points, I then go through to the slots tab. So this is when Jake or whoever at headquarters emails you your slot codes. I put them all in. So I say it's for the Nationals year in 2024. I decide, I pasted all my slot codes, but I decide, is it going to be a champion slot? So we get 1 champion per division that's in that match. And then the rest go to clubs. So this is for the match that's Carry Optics. So I just changed the name of this. So these ones are all Carry Optics slots. Or maybe, let's say, for the sake of showing this, we have one that's a Handgun National slot, one that's an Open PCC slot. So this one is my champion slot, and it's for the Carry Optics match. There's only 1 division in that match. Very easy. I'm going to put in who it's going to. Maybe I should change that. Recipient. There we go. The recipient of this is going to be my Carry Optics champ. If I had another code for, let's say, Open PCC Nationals here, and I had one for the club, that should populate too. Make sure that's all set up for you guys. So yeah, and this is when we put in the key. We had the dates here. It's just helpful to have it in the same place. But say I have an open PCC slot. Okay, that's going to go to a champion 2. I'm going to pick my open champion, let's say. So I go in here, and I find my open champ, and it will populate their first name, last name, and email address. Again, that comes from this key here where we put in all that information. And basically, I go through and I would email those folks and I'd say, hey, you have a slot. I'd send them the script that Jake sends, and I'd say, I've emailed them. That way I don't have to worry about going back later. And I'll check in a couple weeks, see if they've used the slot, and I can update the status. But basically, I put all my slots here. But who do the club slots go to? That's what I have to figure out. So the way I do that is you go to the summary tab here. Basically, all those values that I put in the points tab for the club's activity points, they are all automatically totaled here. So whenever you update your club name and your code for the clubs here, you just want to make sure they match exactly letter for letter here. You're going to put in that same club code and that club name. And that way, when you fill this in here for however many clubs you have, it will automatically go through and say, what was the point value for this specific club code for open, for PCC, whatever. And it will go through and pull them for each of these divisions. So that's why we put it in there. So you'll go through, just make sure you update these yellow fields here with the name that you used for your club name and your club code. Up at the top here, you're going to put in whatever the year of the Nationals is. So right now we're looking at Nationals for 2024, and we based it on the previous year's activity. So we do it for 2023. So I update the years there. These slots here are going to pull in. Oh, that's why I had it listed as Optics. I should change that back to CO. Oops. So change these all back to CO. So basically, it's going to pull in and say, how many of in your slots tab, how many Optics slots do you have? And it will pull that in automatically. So right now we had in that spreadsheet, we had 2 slots for Optics, 1 for handgun, 2 for PCC. So I'm going to go through and we're just going to pull out how many champs I had. So I had, let's say, we go to my key here. I had a Optics champ. So there's only 1 division in that match. So I only had 1 Optics champ. So I'm going to put 1 there. What that does is it changes the total here. And it says, this is how many fewer slots you have to give away to clubs. So we have -1 because it's a Optics champ. This is pulling in from the wrong tab. G. Okay. So how many handgun champs do I have? So let's maybe, for the sake of this, we'll create a couple more handgun slots to give away. Just because there are so many divisions in handgun nationals this year. There are quite a few. So I go to my key and I say, okay, for handgun nationals, I've got, a production champ, a PCC, or a limited champ. I'm going to go in and I'm going to assign those slots to that club. So I'm going to say, okay, this is going to another, champion, this handgun slot. And this is going to my production champion. I have another one here that we have, let's say we had a revolver champion. It goes to that one. So I'm going to say I have 2 champions here. I go to my champs under handgun and I say I have 2 champions. That means the number of slots I have left to give away is 7 for the clubs. Same thing with open PCC. Say I only had 1 champion there. I put in 1. This one also needs to be updated to read this file. Perfect. Cool. It's going to minus that. And I had, so before I put that champion in, I had 2 slots, but now I have 1 slot taken away. So it updates that. So I go through this first section here. I update all those yellow fields. Perfect. Now we go over here. And all these can be populated with clubs. I will make them all yellow for you guys. But basically, it takes everything that was summed up over here. Let's make this a bit bigger. So everything that was summed up over in this table, if we look at, let's just look at Optics first, okay? So we have Optics here. We only had 1 club because for whatever reason I put in 0 for Optics. Let's go ahead and just change that. Let's change the point value for this second club here. Club 2. Where's my Optics slot? Okay, I put 0. Let's put 1,500 activity points. They had a lot of Optics activity. Okay. So now we have 2 clubs here. So this, what happens is this says, okay, this is our carry optics match. I'm going to select that from the top. I have 1 for each match this year. Perfect. Okay, so I go down and I'm going to set the division. So in carry optics, I only have the carry optics division. For handgun nationals, I have limited 10, production, single stack, revolver, limited optics. Excuse me. It's important that you set these divisions because it pulls in the activity points for any of those divisions. So like, let's take out PCC, for example. So if you look at this table above here, it has a certain point value and it distributes them between the clubs. If I delete PCC, those values redistribute because it's only, oh, now it counts in carry optics activity. I'll have to set that so it's like, it can go to 0. I will fix that. But basically, it's going to redistribute the points. So for open and PCC, what would I have there? Piece open. So I'm going to put in PCC. It's going to distribute the points. So basically, there's a lot of setup, but I go through and I can say, okay, here, I know how many slots I have because I have 1. It pulls it in right down here. We go back up here. See, we have 1 slot to distribute. It's the same carry optic slot. So I only have 1 slot to distribute. So basically, we look at the point values, and the way we distribute it is we break it up based on activity. So this first club only took 0.09% of the activity points for carry optics, and this one took 0.91. They have the greater activity, and we only have the 1 slot to give away. So I'm going to put 1 here. They're the club that gets that slot. Then I go back to my slots here, and I say, okay, here's my carry optics slot, the second slot that I had. This goes to club number 2, and it's going to populate their name and email address, and I can say, hey, club, here is your specific slot code. Awesome. Use it. And I mark them as emailed. I go back to my summary when I get my slots for handgun nationals. So I have how many slots to give away? I have 7 slots to give away, which is also right down here again. And say we had more clubs, you would really break up in the distribution. But basically, I just go in order of like the value. So I would mark out, say I have a club here. They're getting 4 of the slots, and this one's getting 3 of the slots. So then we know we've used 7 out of 7. Awesome. And I would go through and do the same thing for this very last match, which is open PCC. And it pulls in my divisions, has my slot code, all set. And so this is a lot in a spreadsheet. I realize I use it. I like it. I can go in. It's super easy to keep track of, but I'm a spreadsheet person. So this is for spreadsheet people. If you're not a spreadsheet person, you can absolutely do it your own way. But there are resources in here like the link to the club activity, which is helpful and not necessarily easy to find on the USPSA website. So I put this out there as a resource for whoever wants to use it. I am happy to have you use it.